What is WD-50?
My intention when opening WD-50 was to have a place where I could continue my culinary education, where I could dig a little deeper, a lot deeper, in fact, and get a better understanding of the many things that make up cooking, the physics, the biology, the chemistry of cooking, to create a place where I could continue my culinary education, which began many years before, and to create a place where my cooks could continue their culinary education, where we could grow and learn together.
And you said you've been in there cooking for 22 years?
It's been about 22 years. I've been doing 20, yeah.
How many restaurants
have I worked at?
Have you worked at?
That's a good question. I'd have to go back and count. But I started cooking, I mean, that's professionally. I started working in restaurants when I was 11. So I've been in and out of restaurants since I was a little kid.
When you open a restaurant, do you feel, like you were saying, you keep a deeper understanding, do you feel like you've grown in leaps and bounds since you guys opened, or is it just more adjusting your original idea?
Both. I mean, we've stayed true to our original idea, but we've grown leaps and bounds, meaning our understanding of cooking has deepened greatly.
Yeah.
We know more today than we did yesterday, and we knew more yesterday than we did 5 years ago, and more 5 years ago than we did, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can go back like about, I don't know, 30 years, 40 years, and then you get to like the dark ages where really nobody knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And we've been cooking for thousands of years without really much of an understanding. Particularly in our own world as professionals. There have been people outside of the culinary world, outside of restaurants, that have been interested in understanding food and food science and the chemistry that's behind all of that. I mean, Clarence Birdseye knew more about frozen food in 1919 than you and I do today. And so that's interesting that we can learn something from him and anybody else. I mean, we realized that we had to go outside of our discipline for the answers to our questions, because they just still to this day don't really exist that much within our own field. But there are lots of people out there that have some answers that we can benefit from. This is something that's become ever present in many restaurants around the world. This is called an Immersioncirculator. It's kind of like a tiny outboard motor. It almost even looks like one. That noise is not a propeller, but an impeller. So it's taking the water in, it's heating it, and then spitting it back out. So it's heating the water to 82.7 degrees.
What are you guys
Celsius.
cooking at?
You can cook whatever you want, but you're controlling the water temperature down to 1/10 of a degree. So that allows very precise and accurate cooking. And this is something that's been in the lab for decades, but it just fairly recently found its way into kitchens worldwide, and it's become a very popular form of very controlled cooking.
Do you feel like they just had, I don't know if you read this article on the LabGround Burger?
Yeah.
Do you think that something like that is taking it too far?
That's not so interesting to me. I think that there might be some value in the technology of growing an animal that way. I mean, I can't say what it is, but I'm imagining that maybe that we could benefit from that. I guess it's almost like cloning, sort of.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in a burger that was grown in a lab. I mean, that's not compelling to me. I like the idea of the cow and the life cycle that it goes through and how it lives on in the way you eat it. Once that animal is slaughtered, it still lives on in a way in that you try to honor its various parts and cook them in responsible ways and serve delicious food. I think at that point you're sort of honoring the animal, the beast. I think it's a little disconnected and certainly kind of creepy.
Yeah.
That your food could just be grown in a petri dish. I mean, there might be some value in being able to create food for people that are hungry or impoverished or something. I don't know. I'm just sort of maybe speculating on how that technology could be useful, but I'm not looking to have our meat be supplied by a lab.
Yeah.
That's not compelling to me. It's a little creepy.
Yeah.
You know?
And I know you mentioned that the name of saying a molecular gastronomist is not what you would consider yourself, that the modernist cuisine is a more proper term.
I mean, I'm not hung up on the title, but modern cooking, modern American cooking, contemporary cooking, all of those things are fine with me. The issue I have with molecular gastronomy is sort of twofold. A, it doesn't sound delicious. If it's Friday night and I'm like, you want to go out for dinner tonight?
You want a long week.
You want to go have Thai? You want to go have pizza, or do you want to get some molecular gastronomy? Like, I mean, no one's ever going to say molecular gastronomy. Most people are going to go, huh? Although I do think that there's a growing understanding that people understand when you say molecular gastronomy, like, okay, we're going to go for that kind of experimental thing. However, it not only does it not sound delicious, it does a disservice, because molecular gastronomy is a field of scientific study practiced by scientists. Yeah. So to call to refer to me as a molecular gastronomist, that's like, so you want to go have biology for dinner? We benefit from the knowledge, for the information that the molecular gastronomist can provide us. I mean, it's a group of people a group of scientists who want to have a deeper understanding of what's happening to a souffle when it rises, and a steak when it grills, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as they begin to break that down and put it in a language that the layperson like myself can understand, we can take that knowledge and say, okay, now I get it. This is what's happening in a souffle. Or this is the temperature at which a steak will begin to get dry. And I have that information, and I can do with that what I want. I can either intentionally make it dry, or I can avoid that temperature.
How have the advancements in technology in the field of molecular gastronomy, or just in general, helped you evolve as a chef?
Well, insofar as we've gone outside our own industry and talked to other people, whether it be molecular gastronomists, food scientists, commercial food processors, et cetera, those people bring knowledge, information, and equipment into the kitchen. Now, the kitchen has always had a very positive relationship with technology. Kitchens are great places for technology to be. I mean, think of a knife, a stove, a microwave, a blender, a food processor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are all things that have become part of the repertoire of a cook. So we've always had a very good relationship with technology, and kitchens have always sort of embraced the idea of an upgrade, and that continues today with equipment, not only information, but as you mentioned, equipment that's come in to the kitchen that maybe would have maybe come at a slower rate, but wouldn't have come as quickly had it not been for the scientists. Things like immersioncirculators, rotary evaporators, centrifuges. These are all things that just increase the sort of the battery of equipment in a kitchen that a cook has access to.
How recent has it been that we've really seen like more and more of these tools in kitchens?
I'd say the last 15 years we've seen specifically equipment coming from scientific laboratories into the kitchen. But again, there's always been a relationship between the kitchen and technology. We've always been eager to embrace things. I mean, think of like a handheld drill or a handheld tool. Now we have handheld hand blenders and things like that. That's just sort of a crossover. That technology, the handheld, battery operated, that's been something that, it's not hard for me to see that a carpenter's using a handheld drill, and so a cook is using a handheld blender. That's a very simple sidestep that makes perfect sense. I wish I'd thought of it. It seems like a good business opportunity. But again, I think in general, kitchens have always been ready to say, oh wow, that's a food processor. That's great. I mean, I could chop this onion in 5 minutes, or I could put it in the food processor and I could chop it in 5 seconds.
Do you feel like the customer, the restaurant goer, has evolved over time? And
Well, I think yes. I think absolutely. I think that the diner has always been interested in sort of the source of their food, where their food is coming from. You know, that is somehow farmed responsibly. But I also think there's even more of a dialogue, a discussion of that. I think for a long time it was just sort of presumed you're at a nice restaurant, they're using nice ingredients.
Yeah.
Sort of a don't ask, don't tell kind of policy. But you know, the world is getting smaller and the access to information is getting easier, and so people are asking, where's my fish from? What did my steak eat before it came to me? Not only as well as how did you prepare it? You know, how did it get like this? Or, you know, there's yes, I think the diner has become more sophisticated, more educated, more aware of the world at large, and so they're bringing more knowledge to the table too, and expecting us, I think, to in turn keep up with that.